You are live. I didn't think that. I have a fanfare too. You know what?
Actually, guys, I was recording this whole time, and so now I'm posting.
No way.
I'm lying.
Okay.
But Roger got scared.
Yeah, I was like, I shouldn't have said that. No, not really. So guys, how y'all doing?
Hello. I was gonna say happy Thursday, and then I realized it's not Thursday.
So guys, this is the book. This is a really good book, Alchemy. And so what we're gonna do is just like, we'll just have a conversation around it. And it's quite a bit to take in, actually. And a lot of people might be wondering,
okay, why is your voice is like far away? It's not clear.
Wait, you sure about that? Even right now?
Guys, have y'all seen that video? You sure about that? You sure about that?
No, I've never seen it.
Oh, you're gonna die. Okay, I'll send it.
Oh my gosh, I gotta watch it now.
Oh, now somebody just changed the microphone and they're just gonna do this gesture like I didn't pick up on. You little tick 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 tick.
It's scary living with somebody who can pick up on your mannerisms like Rosie does, you know? So you actually, what's that?
I'm very dangerous.
You're very dangerous. So Rosie, you're doing a lot of exciting things these days.
It's not like we just stick on Alchemy.
Huh?
Because we didn't talk about how much I can reveal. We're gonna stick to Alchemy.
We need to stick to Alchemy. Okay. So the premise of the book, and reason why we might be asking the question, why are we talking about alchemy? And what's the relevance of alchemy? Would you agree? Has that crossed y'all's mind? Why this book? No?
Why? This podcast is not starting off the right foot. We have a reset button.
Okay, let me shake it off.
Hi, everyone.
Right. Hi. So, okay, look, guys, we obviously don't have forever to talk about this book. We have a narrow window, so I want to make sure that we just make this conversation fun, exciting, and along the way, like maybe just pick up on some tidbits, and that could help us. Because if we look at it since February, or it's almost March now, but we've read several books or talked about several books this year. Right? We've talked about high performance habits, we've talked about the 12-week year, and so on and so forth. So I think we might be wondering now, why are we talking about alchemy? What does alchemy have to do with everything else that we've read this year? Oh.
I was like,
I knew something was off.
Something was off. And something is off even more. I was like, I'm not able to focus.
Now we can start the podcast.
Yeah, now we can. So we're just going to edit out that part prior to this moment.
Leave it in.
Leave it in? Okay, perfect.
So, okay, let's begin with this, right? Like, I told Roger, I said, you know what? It is a full-time responsibility to be your wife and your business partner. I said, you're reading book number 5 and it's not even month number 2 over yet, and you expect all of us to absorb at a lightning speed. That's not going to work. I said, so you're going to have to slow it down and tell us exactly why we're reading Alchemy right now. And these things matter a lot. Like our mindset is such a beaten up word. I wish I can come up with a different name for this. How about this? We need a different brain to come up with a different output, right? And so one of the roles that Roger plays is that he's the one out there researching and bringing information, and then our brains couple that ideas together into what we're doing in day to day, and we apply it, right? So when we're thinking about solving a problem, like we work with investors, they're wanting to get some deals done, they're feeling stuck, so we're going to figure it out how to change it. We have an event coming up, which we are going to plan on, which I'm so excited. So when we're doing these things, we want to make sure that we are not doing things that are predictable. Yeah. Because predictable is boring. The moment you know how the movie is going to end, you stop watching it. I stop watching it. So one of the things that Alchemy book talked about is that being rational means you're predictable. And if you're wholly predictable, that means people can hack you. Right.
Yeah.
So, one of the biggest things that we play in our world of business is negotiations. How can we reveal enough without losing the sight of the main thing and still withhold enough for whosoever we are representing to get them the best outcome? Isn't that the chess we play all the time, right? So
Yeah.
Alchemy book had really given me permission on a lot of things that we thought were illogical, because sometimes the logical thing to do is only our means of getting safety.
Yeah.
It has worked. Let me just do that because it's going to work and I don't have to feel unsafe. What a mind freaking boggling thing. How many things we're doing just to feel safe? But what are we trying to? There's no saber to tiger running at us. Like, what are we feeling unsafe from?
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you how many times in a day I have to remind myself that, Rosie, it's okay to take this risk. It's okay to say these things. Um, it's okay to try something new. It's okay to not default into that behavior pattern, because if you just do something new for a minute, you will absolutely fall in love with the results that you're going to get, and they're going to be something beyond your imagination. I think our imagination is a predictability factor. We only produce out of our imagination that we have already seen before.
That's what this book has done for me is validate thinking outside the box, because sometimes we feel like that maybe we're just doing it to we're being uncooperative and have to come up with these types of ways to like maybe stimulate ourselves or whatever. But this book says that illogical way, that he calls it psychologic. So he says, like, think about this. This is kind of a colorful example, but way before we knew bacteria was a thing, we were pretty adverse to poo, right? Like, we've descended from people that probably most likely didn't like poo. Would you agree?
Hopefully.
I mean, yeah, that's how we evolved. So we were doing things way before we knew what they were for and applying a logic, but a lot of that comes from the irrational, or from like kind of a mystical space almost, is what I'm getting from the book. He Now a lot of people can contest whether or not they'll debate whether or not God exists and whether or not all this other stuff. But he says, does God work? And so he has some statistics in there showing how people remain married longer, and
I'm
that.
not understanding this. I want you to help us understand in the forms of structure. Like, give us one structure of, okay, this is the concept we're talking about, and this is what alchemy talks about it. Because I'm having a hard time comprehending this big book through you, because I feel like you have already understood it, and I need more context.
Okay, I want to take two steps back, really. And what's a problem or situation that we would be working through? Think of anything. Like, I think really rationalizing in our own personal lives, like getting a friend to do something, getting our kids to do something. It's about influence, and it's ultimately how are you going to influence ourselves as well. So if we read High Performance Habits and 12-week year and everything else, well, knowing what the right thing to do is it's pretty obvious what we're supposed to do. But we're applying all of our logic to that, and that's why we're not receiving the outcome we want.
For
It's
example,
too rationalized.
for example,
Um, what would be a good example? Huh. So do we want to solve our problem, or do we want to be seen as solving our problem?
Is That's what alchemy says?
Yeah, let me actually put that in the banner down here at the bottom. And I want y'all to really think about what this means for you, and maybe you can share with me, like, how do you process that question?
I want to solve a problem.
A lot of the time, what people want to do is be seen as solving a problem.
Is that ego?
No, it's actually so what it is we don't know how to articulate our why. You know how Simon Sinek wrote the book Big Why or Start with Why?
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Rosie and I were sitting at the coffee shop the other day and we were debating this idea of why, and it was really agitating me. And I didn't know what about it was really bothering me. It was making my skin crawl. I said, Rosie, knowing our why could take a whole lifetime. Like I don't understand where that question comes from or why we are so why has that mass appeal. And he goes on and he actually quotes a psychologist here, someone who studied human behavior from many years, and he says it's really difficult to understand because if you think about it for a second, let's take a step back, right? Okay, so imagine a a rabbit running in the field and it's being chased by a dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's got kind of a it's got a unpredictability to it, right? It doesn't know where it's going to hop to next. And it can zigzag and it can elude the dog. But if it actually knew where it was going, it would be an easy target, right? So that's kind of how humans have evolved, is that it's almost like a survival mechanism for us not to know exactly why we want to do something. So I understand in the realm of business, we've talked about this before. Why it's important to know why our customers, our clients, our family members need to have a great experience. But it's really the how. So he says, like, take a step back and just look at it from just a camera angle shift and ask yourself, well, instead of okay, for instance, he says like technology is advancing by so much and we constantly want to make things faster and faster and faster. But what if we actually made them more pleasant? Because making something faster, we're going to hit a wall, right? Like Google has this company called Google X, and their whole imperative is to design moonshots, and moonshots is to put a 10x, like a to really innovate by a factor of 10. But he says, what if instead of making a ride 20% faster, why don't we make it 20% more pleasant? And so one of the examples he cites in the book is the Uber map. The Uber map that tells you where the car is at the moment. He said the wait time is exactly what it has always been. But now, because there's a Uber map involved, we are much more patient about the car arriving, right? And so, why is that important? So, as soon as we understand the things that we can tweak and fix in our lives don't need the don't need the fixes that we're imagining, but if we can kind of handle them from just a 1 degree angle shift, like getting your kid to do their homework, right? If we could step to the side and kind of rationalize what's really happening, well, why don't they want to do their homework? What's so unpleasant about it? And we say, okay, I see that there's a lot of noise around where they are. Maybe they need a quiet space. Maybe if we create an environment for them to succeed or establish a place for them to do their work, they'll be more successful. Or I mean, the same thing with our clients, keeping them keep just like how we keep them in the loop of what exactly is happening, right? So if we keep them in the loop of what's happening, now they're having a pleasant experience versus touching base with them in the middle of whatever, and they're like, "Where am I? I don't know what's going on." So that's really important, but we don't necessarily how to state what's happening.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, are we saying rationalize things or don't rationalize things.
Well, actually, I would want to say rationalize it. Don't look at them from the traditional lens.
Okay. Okay, wait. So
Okay.
then
Yeah.
my next question is what it seems like is Rosie said something about imagination, and then you were talking about like getting your kid to, let's say, do their homework, right? You don't always,
Yeah.
if you, or eating a vegetable, right? Human, we're all humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we? Just kidding. Kids or adults, right? Getting them to eat a vegetable. You know that you should eat a vegetable, but you're like, I don't want to eat the vegetable, right? It doesn't taste as good or whatever the case may be. So then it seems like, again, this is my interpretation, is that we should now take back everything that we have learned and go back to our brain as we were kids. Because
Mhm.
when we were kids, number one, we had amazing imagination. We could imagine crazy things. There
Yes.
was no limit to your imagination. And
Yeah.
number two, you can have a regular rationalization that now like everyone is having that, but maybe we should expand that to maybe like a kid's perspective of a rationalization rather than
Yeah.
what we kind of are growing up to know. Am I reading that right?
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah. No. Precisely. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Like to take a different approach. Because how well is it working for us to constantly nag at our kids? We have an unpleasant experience. They have an unpleasant experience. No one's eating their vegetables, and we're still at square one,
Mm,
right? Versus, like you said, going back to when you were a kid, and now you can really see what is the undesirable nature of this vegetable.
mm,
Or then we can start to imagine, okay, which vegetables can we eat and how can we eat them? And also, he's an expert marketer. So what he says is like give people an option. So one of the things he talks about in the book is presenting those options. And sometimes when we sandwich the obvious solution in between two other solutions, that makes it much more desirable for someone to say yes. So, for instance, if I was the example in the book is selling a subscription to a online newspaper.
mm,
The only online version is $59. The the physical newspaper is $129 a month. And the third option is physical and digital for $129 a month. So you would naturally decide on the one where you got both formats. But whenever they removed one of the options, people opted for the cheapest. So
mm,
so it's kind of it doesn't make sense. So almost having giving them three options or thinking of a way to actually present the offer creates a a better buy-in.
mm. 3 ways, not 2.
Yeah, he says like doing three. They found it just mind blowing how the third option just immediately created a higher buy-in, if you will.
Mm,
So if I said, broccoli or carrots, and then on my third option was, broccoli and carrots, now they'll probably decide on one of those, you know. But we just gotta play with it. So basically, maybe it's cheese dip or something or ranch, and now ranch with broccoli, yay. So that sort of thing. But I don't think Rosie's like, what the heck is going on? What are we talking about?
That's right.
Okay, so tell me, how do you so he also talks about this really cool
I want
idea.
to know what he talked about. I want to have a conversation in a way that my mind can engage.
Okay.
So you need to come up with some irrational way to engage my mind in this book and how we are applying this. Because here's the thing, I'm a big fan of Rory Sutherland. His book blew my mind away and allowed me to right away implement some ideas that were out of this world. And I feel like you have all that information in your mind. You have not given it away to me in a way that I can use it right away. So you're going at a lightning speed. I want you to slow it down for me. I'm not that fast.
Okay. Well, do you guys like pancakes?
No, I want you to know first, give me an idea and then tell me what his irrational concept is around it. Then I would say if I can apply this or not.
Okay, so here's a great one. All right. I'm going to give you a real one. What it is everybody remembers when the vapes first came out, we all were like anti-vape. Society was against vapes.
Hmm.
But the more that we're studying vapes and more that we're actually like seeing the effects of vapes, we're seeing smokers, people that actually smoke cigarettes are quitting. There's so much research showing that people who smoked cigarettes, once they took on vapes, they actually quit. So whatever the popular stigma is to actually look at it, step to the side and wonder why it's happening that way. Like, don't have this herd mentality around those things. What one of the things that really it speaks to me is this is um I don't know. I think you're asking for like something really, really concrete,
No,
an
it's not.
application like
An
it's
example.
irrational, it's illogical,
Yeah,
you know?
the Alchemy book is all about irrational thinking, and the rational is what makes the world go around. But that's not what kept our ancestors safe. Today we are alive. It's not because we were logical in our way of thinking, right? So
Mhm.
it goes back to our evolution. So I remember this one particular concept. We live in a very fast world. Everybody wants instant gratification. We want fast results, right? Today, some of my friends are flying from the airport, right? And let's suppose we are going on a vacation, we arrive at an airport, and Rory talks about it in a beautiful way. He
Mhm.
says, let's suppose you walk to your terminal, you rush through the line from the check-in line, from the gates and stuff, and it says, now you're about to fly out in next 10 minutes, boarding about to happen next 10 minutes, and you're going to catch another flight from there, right? But in next 5 minutes, the terminal says flight delayed. And they said a lot of crowd would be really, 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 really upset that, hey, you flight delayed, what does it mean? But if
Yeah.
it says flight delayed 10 minutes, a lot less crowd would be upset. What changed? What changed is that they paced the wait, not, because it's not the idea that people cannot wait and they're not angry. They still are at loss. The only difference is they know by how much.
Okay, so basically I feel like what you're talking about and what I was mentioning in the beginning was people really don't know why,
Yeah, why
right?
they're mad.
It's
So
it's
if
like
we
a
like,
cryptic message.
for example, Bree, like when buyers buy properties, right? If we say that lender did not approve you, they're like, what do you mean they didn't approve me? But if you give them a reason they didn't approve you right now, but in a month when you have your pay stubs in from your new job, now they have an expectancy around it, right? So they said when people are taken the power away taken from them is makes what makes them angry. They're going to show anger like, wow, flight delayed, who, you guys don't know what the flight delay is about? You guys don't understand that I'm taking a connecting flight? Do you guys not understand what I'm going through? They're going to say these things, but what they're failing to say is that I feel powerless, that you hold the ticket to my freedom to get to my destination, and I don't know if I'm going to get there or not. This is what's really making them angry. So I feel like the irrational thinking that Alchemy talks about, it allows us to tap into the real reason why people get upset in a business or in a negotiation or in a relationship or even right now, right? Like if I'm not sinking in, what I'm saying is that I want to play this game. I want to play in this ideation, but I'm
Yeah.
not capturing the concept, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that a lot of these things that Alchemy is talking about is very valuable, very, very valuable in our business and personal life.
Yeah.
Each concept can be dissected and seen, like like in your life, in your relationship, right? Let's suppose you organized a party,
Mhm.
and somebody says, "I won't make it." It's a different reaction, right? But if say, hey, I cannot make it because I have two flat tires and I try to get it fixed, but they're not available to help me in another for at least another 2 hours. Now, do you feel the same way about that person?
Mm-mm.
No. What changed?
A reasoning. So is it a reasoning, or is it managing the expectations
Managing the expectations.
through a reason sometimes, and sometimes not through a reason?
Yeah, like the Uber map that Roger was talking about,
Is it
right? He said the flight, yeah, the car is not coming any earlier, but it says connecting to the driver. Your driver is 2 minutes away. It's about to arrive. They just made waiting more easier because now you can pace. You have more control, more autonomy.
Yeah.
it's about number one, managing the expectation so that you feel like you're in control.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have more control. We just feel that way because we kind of have a roadmap as to what's going to happen next or why something happened.
You and I have been doing business for over 15 years, right? It, around 10 years ago is when we made the decision we're going to give our people a weekly update. Have we missed our weekly updates? None of our clients ever say that we didn't even know what was going on. We're still doing the same thing, but we're just making them more aware of it. Not making people aware of things is what makes them angry. So we're pacing it. So I think what I was trying to say, Roger, is that each chapter has a concept. I want to know how that concept applies to our personal and our business life.
Okay, so first
These are
off,
really powerful lessons.
yeah, so first is that people don't know what they genuinely want.
Yeah, they don't know how to point out their true emotions. That's true.
And there's there's no logic to the real breakthroughs. Like right now, physicists don't even know how a bicycle works. That was news to me. I thought we all knew how a bicycle worked. But
Wait, a physicist doesn't know how to bicycle? Like,
yeah, they don't know how exactly like why is it that it works?
hmm.
And I'm kind of fearful of saying that on the call because but I had
I
my
don't
son
believe
look
in
it
a
up.
book
He's like,
that I think physics know how a bicycle works.
okay, well, according to the book, physicists don't know how a bicycle works. But anyways, we don't what I think what we're really getting at is first, number one, we don't know why we want something. And then when we do want something, we don't know what the true intention behind it is. So for instance, like some people, and I don't understand this logic, but apparently it's out there. People will buy a Starbucks coffee, $5 coffee. Like there's no logic behind that because coffee is so cheap to produce. But a lot of people want that green logo because it's a status symbol. So status is signaling, right? And signaling is what he talks about. It's kind of like in how flowers are attracting bees. They're beautiful, they have a scent, and now they have pollen, and the bee is attracted to the plants and carrying the pollen around. So we're a lot like those plants too. We're signaling. And so, but we can't come out and say exactly how we feel, right? That's part of reason why we don't go there. We don't express that. Like we don't buy flowers. You don't buy flowers for your wife or for your girlfriend saying, I hope you'll sleep with me tonight. Do you get like that's the example that's in the book, right? Like you don't that's not what you do. So because we can't be that transparent, we're also not as transparent with ourselves in that same process.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Is
Hmm.
that a little bit more clarity on that?
Yeah, only one concept at a time. You
Yeah.
guys both are very smart, very fast. I know you can consume 100 at a time. I can only do two or three.
No, that's perfect. So
Okay, whatever. That's a lie. But
You guys were playing along as if like you guys were making sense. It was not making sense to me at all. It was too fast. I was
it
barely
is
getting one
it's,
idea in, and the next idea popped in.
yeah, so here's what's really what made me think is a lot of people don't want what they think they want. So, for instance, a lot of the people that we're friends with are real estate investors, or they're saying they're real estate investors, or they want to invest in real estate, when that may not be true. They want to be, it's that same, it's this one right here. We don't want to solve our problem. We want to be seen as solving our problem.
so we just want to be seen as a certain way. We don't necessarily really want that particular thing,
We don't want it.
whatever it is. We just want to be seen as having it, doing it, being it, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, there's like such a deep internal satisfaction from seeing as the person who's responsible enough to want to invest.
Mm.
And then it's self-sabotage because we get somehow it's speaking to our survival. Like,
I have a question then.
yeah.
I don't know if this is answered in the book or not, but if
Mhm.
we don't know what we really want and we can't express what we truly intend, what are we doing?
We're being sold to. We're
Oh,
constantly being sold to, and the ideas are not our own. For instance, like we got to be aware of how we're being sold to, and I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but you know, like for instance, you go to here's one example. It's a real small example, but it's an example, right? So a housewife or a stay-at-home dad goes shopping, and he sees pancake batter in the aisle, and it says just add water, right?
mm-hmm.
Well, when they first started that campaign, it caused the sales to plummet. People were not buying just add water pancake mix because it didn't make them feel like they were good parents or good spouses.
Mm-hmm.
And because the it didn't involve as many steps to making a pancake. Cracking fresh eggs into the batter meant that you cared about your family.
Oh, so like basically now it's just like the same thing. You have to bake the sourdough bread, you have to have the starter, you have to have some
Boom.
chickens and everything in order to be a good parent. That's kind of the what is happening now.
Precisely, precisely. Yeah. Another thing is there was a company that sold biscuits, and they reinvented their biscuit to be a lot less, a lot more healthier, and they put that on the label, less fat, and it caused the sales to plummet. And when they went to Rory and they said, "Hey, listen, we made our biscuits healthier, but our sales are falling out of the floor. Like, what's happening?" And he said, "Did you put it on the label that your biscuits were healthier?" They said, "Yes." He said, "Well, that's a problem."
What did they want it to be?
Sometimes if you're making a better product and you say how great your product is or how you reinvented your product, that how it might be, like for instance detergent, if you say your detergent is better for the environment, people will start to use more of it because they think you watered it down or something.
Mm.
So it's really just understanding, like sitting back when you're in the grocery store aisle and saying, why am I buying this? What about this is appealing to me, and understanding how what are our motives. And that's where we hack the idea of the subconscious. So that's step two
What was step one? Sorry,
is
signal.
is signaling. So you can start to see like, okay, I want to have a nice car because it it tells people that I'm successful. Okay, but hold on, why do I need to do that? This is an opportunity sitting back and asking that question. Or in our respects, like how we've been talking about goals the entire year, we've been talking about setting our goals in 12-week year and all that, is saying, well, why do I even have that goal? What does it mean to me? And what would it be signaling to myself or my family, my friends? Like, what does it mean? Why did I pick that one? And it gives us a chance to be really transparent so we could then perhaps really address what we need to do, right? So, like, for instance, why do people eat at restaurants when sustenance is so much cheaper if you just eat at home? It's cheaper to eat at home, right? But why do people eat at restaurants? Does it really save them time?
No, no.
Yeah. You sit there for a restaurant for 2 hours, gone, and now you can't be productive. You're going back home. It was a whole ordeal.
Yep.
But because we're not clear about the signaling or the subconscious, or the third aspect is um, satisficing. So, okay, it's not what I wanted. It's an alternative. I'll take it. Like it's satisfying to us,
Hmm.
right? It's satisfying to not hit our goals.
Hmm.
I'll take the next best option. So it's a lot about psychology. Economics is psychology, you know? It's really seeing why consumers buy certain things, why they do certain things, and ultimately that gives us a better idea of how we can understand ourselves.
Hmm.
So the biggest
Here,
takeaway I had,
Rosie
huh?
here today. She's not saying much.
I'm listening.
I think the biggest takeaway I have had from this book is people aren't necessarily going to do what's good for them, and they're going to want to to say they have these goals, but then not really do anything about them.
Have the goal to have the goal.
Yeah, just to have the goal.
Hmm.
And we have, again, those same people, including myself, we have to look at, well, why did I set that goal?
Why is Rosie laughing?
I just realized that maybe people just do things just to do things.
Yeah. Well, if you know that about yourself, then you can feel a lot less overwhelmed when that thing isn't happening. The problem is when we want it so bad, but then it makes us feel bad.
The goal.
The goal.
Okay.
So they're
Like,
feeling bad.
or let's say my goal is to buy 2 investment properties this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not buying them. And
Mm-hmm.
now I feel bad because I didn't buy them.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the goal and what is the achievement here? Like what happened here?
The thing is I just set a goal because maybe I see someone else buying real estate.
So basically, people don't know what they really want.
They really don't know what they want. That's why they're not. Because doesn't it make sense? Look, if I want to buy real estate, I call Bree and I say, "Hey, Bree, uh, help me get an investment property." It's a very logical, straight line path.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of science. It's not very complicated,
Mm-hmm.
but we purposely complicate it so we don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the other levers of influence that we spoke about last week, right? Like if everyone's doing it already, then if everyone's doing it already, then maybe there are no other investment properties left.
Well, that's a big one I hear.
Yeah, right. It's true, right? Like, oh, if they're out there and they're probably all getting snatched up.
Yeah. People always say that. I'm like, really? Because I have a list of 25 that look really good right here.
Yeah.
List of 25. They look really good on paper. Logically. But none of
I
them
think what it does for us,
have
Bree,
an offer.
yeah. You know what it does for us though is it allows us to walk into the conversation, take an camera angle shift, and really have a conversation. Pull in a chair, and say, okay, like really tell me what would this do for you?
Yeah.
That subconscious hacking, like getting into the subconscious and really anchoring what would it do for us ultimately. That's what it's all. That's what this book's all about.
So not taking surface level approach of I want to buy an investment property, if that's the example we're using, then we go 10 levels deep as to what buying the investment property would do for them.
Yeah, perfect. And maybe they can approach it from an illogical way because look, the most the thing that the logic that they're using isn't the one that's working. Now they can say, well, why am I not looking at the 25 properties that Brittany has? Like, what about the 25 properties that she mentioned and I'm still sitting on the sideline? What preconceived notions do I have? Why hasn't my click run occurred? Like, okay, we talked about click runs in our book Influence. And so one of the ways you can test a click run on someone is I just tested it the other day, right? I told my son, I said, man, something about those shorts. I hate those shorts. They're so ugly. And he got startled, and I was like, "That's a click run." And he goes, "Oh my god!" And we laughed. We laughed about it. But we can. It was an experiment, right? Like there's something that makes us tick. What makes us tick? What makes us wake up? What makes us come out of the sleep that we're in?
Yeah.
Like right now, somebody could say something to either one of us, and it'll cause us to be more alert or sit up in our chairs. You know.
Hmm.
One of the ideas that Rosie just used recently this week was, Rosie, what was it? You were talking about this morning. Those spontaneous moments, those electric moments. We're talking about them at coffee this morning. So it's about creating. I think you'll remember. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm
Those
thinking
jolts,
we didn't
jolts.
we didn't talk about. Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah.
we were talking about the alchemy book. My brain was still there.
Well, I mean, we're talking about influence and alchemy because he talks about Robert Cialdini quite a bit in here.
Mm.
You mind sharing about the jolts or
I don't think that's relevant. It's
well, it is kind of relevant, right? Because I'll tell you how it's relevant to this book. So if I was talking to Bree and I said, Bree, I wanted to buy investment properties, and she says I got 25, I can create a jolt moment around observing those 25. Like saying I actually went through and looked at them. And if I can check that off as one of my goals, that really brings a jolt of electricity to me. Like, how do I feel? Because the book talks about really checking in with how you feeling about the things you're setting
yeah.
yourself up
I
for.
think what you're really talking about is that the logical thing for us is that we measure everything logically. And creating something logically is basically creating a conclusion around something. So a concluded mind is the most unpleasant mind because there's no way out
That's
of
it.
there's no way out of
Yeah.
it. You have made up your mind. A made up mind is the most unpleasant mind because
Yeah.
there's no chance to change your mind. No new possibility can enter, and even if the outcome is bad, you just stick to it because that's the most concluded mind that you have, right? So I think what you're really saying is that if people have a goal, the only way we think that we have achieved our goal is if we actually achieve that one thing. But people can create jolt moments around small, small wins. Like, hey, I actually visited the properties you sent me. Great, awesome. I filed for the loan approval letter. Great, awesome. I actually jumped on a Zoom call and analyzed two properties with you. Great. What if they, so to achieve a logical outcome, the illogical things are what makes us keep going because we are irrational beings.
How
We
about
didn't
what would make me feel really good
good, yeah. So that's
ab-
the great
about moving towards that goal?
just doing things that make you feel good and somehow they land at the logical results. So I think that's what alchemy is all about.
You summed it up
So
excellently.
wh- that was a good summary, but I have a question. So
Yeah.
basically, in our mind, we want to go like from A to B, like straight line, but it's
Yeah.
really not straight line. It's like up and down and twisty loopy loo to get to where we want to be. And
Yeah.
if our mind stays open and curious and not closed off, then we can get to that goal a lot easier and a lot
For
more.
example, if a property is on the
Yeah.
market, right? Like we gotta wrap it up with real estate because that's where our most applied knowledge is, right? A property is on the market, and we're like, well, you like the property, then write an offer, right? We have this thing in our mind. Or buyers, hey, you liking a property, you want to buy it, then write an offer, right? We think that is the most logical thing for someone to do. But it is not always the most logical thing that makes sense to people or get them into action. Because that should be the every logical step. What if it is a byproduct of our irrational thinking? So the irrational thing is if somebody sees a property and somebody's wanting to submit an offer, I cannot just tell an agent that, hey, you like the property, why don't you just submit an offer? We'll see it. Would your clients be open to something? And we say, hey, submit an offer, we'll talk about it. I never text agents that. I think it's the most rudest way to cut a relationship off. I'll always pick up a phone. I was like, wow, I'm so glad you showed my property. I'm so happy is because of agents like you. The world goes around. You guys are getting in the cars and driving buyers around, and that's what real estate sells. So thank you so much, first of all, for doing that. Second, I know this market is tough. A conversation can take a deal a lot further than few text messages. What is it that you loved about our property? How can I show up for you? What is it that you need to know? What are your clients really looking for in the area? I might have something else coming up. Great, awesome. You guys like it? Hey, if anything is stopping you from writing an offer, would you give me a call so I can at least have a chance to talk it through with you? I never asked her to write an offer. Now I can send them 6, 7 messages back and forth. Where's the offer? Where's the offer? She probably doesn't even know what's holding things back. Sometimes we need to think it through. So creating that openness, like there was nothing logical about it. Why? When you know something is not logical, when you cannot build a process around it.
There you go. That's
You
part of
cannot build a process
logic.
around what I just said. Because it's going to change every time based on the property, based on the interest, based on the motivation, and based on the price point. So I think that's what Alchemy was talking about, that step out of the predictability on what to do next. Anything that can be jotted down on a checklist, you're only dealing with half the human.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's how Alchemy is summing up for me, that be irrational in your ways.
And so maybe someone that is shopping for an investment property, what they could do is set up that one moment, maybe like getting on the phone. What is it for them? Like if I was investing in properties, maybe picking up the phone and calling you would be okay. That's one of my jolt moments.
I'll
That's
give
what
you,
made me
yeah,
that
I'll
jolt
give you an
moment.
example. Bree was writing an offer for one of our clients yesterday, and she made a video of a Zoom and sent it to me. And we did not talk about how to write an offer and when to write an offer, but everything else. That is irrational thinking. Thinking about, okay, what is this property priced at? What are other properties? Why aren't they not selling? Okay, if they were to buy that property, why would they buy that property over this one? Okay, this one got under contract. Okay, and Bree, do you remember how quickly we were revealing some things and we were starting to filter some things down together by bouncing things back and forth? Were we following a checklist?
No.
No. To me, that is irrational thinking, and that's being human.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, even the best mathematicians have to first. They're saying they just take a whim at it. They take a guess at what the problem could be, and then they take a guess at what the solution could be. And these are Nobel Prize winning mathematicians, right? So they're just being that little bit of irrational that you're talking about.
perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this book is definitely going to require a deep dive, so we'll put it in the deep dive pile, and we'll
I
look
am
at it.
requesting a revision by Roger Hayer on this book to
I
present.
gotta tell you, hey, I was a lot to take in. I read it, just literally finished it today, right? Started yesterday,
I,
finished
I,
today.
I'm requesting a revision because I think this book has a lot more for
Mhm.
people as hidden gems that they deserve to get. So I request humbly.
Well, hey, if they want it, show up at Coffee Social, because by then we'll definitely know how to put it into practice.
Okay, sounds good. Fair enough.
Yeah. So Coffee Social at Easy Tiger at the
At the
link.
link on Friday at 9:30 a.m. Guys, by the way, tables do fill up. And when I say 9:30 a.m., I'm surprised to see how people show up by 9:25 a.m. to grab their chairs. So it's a great conversation, great way to connect and become smarter together. I feel like we can be chit-chatting about what's happening in the world, or we can be doing things that will move a needle for all of us in different ways. So let's become better together and have great conversations. So, Brie, anything you want to add?
No.
Roger, do you want to add anything else?
Oh, I actually do want to add something,
I was hoping you would add something. I was going to ask you one
but
more
it wasn't
time if
about
you
alchemy.
would.
Oh,
No, that's fine. I
It's
still want
about
you
I
to.
thought I was being pranked today by y'all on this
Where?
call because Roger was talking, Rosie was like this, not
well,
smiling.
that was being irrational. I didn't get it. I didn't get
I
it.
thought, oh, is this a prank? And then I realized this is not a prank.
I'll tell you what, it
Just
was
right.
extremely cognitively taxing talking about the book, and that's the thing about these great reads, right? This is a thick book. It takes a long time to read, and so I don't want to ever be pretentious or pretend like I know exactly what the heck this guy's talking about. And I appreciate you, Rosie, for giving us a format to have that conversation, and Bree to be asking those questions and drawing that out of me, because things like these we got to read a few times to really grasp them, and I look to do that. But the questions are, it's really, he's talking about marketing, he's talking about human behavior, and how do we apply it, how do we actually use those lessons in everyday life? That's the real question.
I do have a lot of respect for other people who have different brains than me, and I might not have the same brain as anybody else, but I think this podcast alone is a very live example of how together we are so whole, and individually might feel like we might not have it all together. It is a very true example of it, because some of my greatest work that I have done, it has been hours and hours of brainstorming with Roger, and I know how I extract things out of him in terms of ideas, how to structure them. And in the belief system I am in, I'm as smart as the brains that I am collaborating with, right? So I don't have any ego attached to it. Has to be my idea. I'm all about, okay, I'm very much inclined towards how it applies. My brain just naturally defaults to that, right? So a person who is absorbing a complete unknown cannot always look that way. That's the only way they're absorbing the most, right? And then, Brie, you come in where you're given no heads up on the conversation that we're about to have. And then you instantaneously on the spot start relating with your real life experiences, which affirms the ideas or contradicts them and causes us to think differently. So I feel like having a wholesome experience is meeting of the minds, and it is not my way or the highway. So I have a huge respect for it, and I think we owe it to each other to create an authentic space for us to be able to disagree and be okay with not understanding where some things are headed. Like how often we can say something is perfect 100% of the time? Not very much often, right? So this was probably one of those moments. And on that note, you were pranked.
Was.
Yeah, you are.
For real.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Actually, you were not.
Yeah,
I
I
just
was.
decided to say that.
I was. In my mind, I am, and I'm closing my mind, and I'm not open to any other opportunities today, guys.
She's being very irrational.
I'm being
This
irrational.
is being irrational, where you're like, I'm not letting you know. Hey, you know I have a pen leak on my shirt. What the hell?
Oh my gosh.
And if it makes anyone feel better, I'm still reading 12-week year, so thank you.
If it makes you all feel better, I don't even know what book I'm reading at this point. I'm reading the one Roger is reading. How about that? Because what he's reading, I have to read it because the bouncing of the ideas. So on that note, guys, 52 minutes and 52 seconds. Oh shit.
This is, I think, the very first time we've created so much value.
We can be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not being hard on myself at all, because there's some really smart people reading this book, and I would love to hear from them.
That's why we need one more version. Hey, whatever.
We'll do it. We'll do
we
it.
start in 1.0 and we'll fix it 1.1.
Yeah.
So we deserve 1.1 of Alchemy again. So on that note, guys, thank you so much. And next time we have a big market update due. So next week, Bree, we're planning a big market update, bring some great investment opportunities, some of the ones we have already negotiated. We're going to talk real estate. We have a pinned up information on that. So
hey, so one of the requests I got was price points and where they're located across the city.
Okay.
So where can, because we all know price points get eaten up, right?
Yeah.
And and I would love to reach out to the viewers, and if you guys have anything specific you want to know about the market update, let us know. We'll make sure to address that.
Sounds great.
Cool.
Perfect, guys. On that note, thank you so much, and thank you for having fun with the prank. Love you, Bree. Love everyone.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.